short, a real quick short on this engine that was on this GT5000 that you can see is just about done. I'll have it apart in another 45 minutes. It's just the transmission and the tires and maybe some of the steering components. Maybe. Like this piece for sure, right? See, these ones, they didn't go bad. Not like on the other ones where I had to always replace them. This is just loose up top. That's nothing. The engine, right? It was having issues where it was backfiring out of the carburetor. It might not have been the carburetor. It could have been because I ran garbage gas through it. You know what I mean? I put gas into that tank. That tank had crap in the tank from the gas cap. Little black particles that filled up this fuel line with it very clearly. You see that thing? It's filled with it. See it? If that did get through, okay, I don't think it did though, but if it did get through, it would have gone into the fuel pump first, clogging that sucker up, and it would have made its way into the carburetor. But I had the thing open. Oh, and look, now it has a sticker because I took it off the GT, put one on there. I put one on the other one too. Every little thing helps. It's bad enough the hood's too plain, right? At least now the thing's got a sticker. It doesn't look so plain anymore. That looks kind of plain, but on this machine, it doesn't really matter. It still looks good. Anyway, my point here was, yeah, it was popping back out of the carburetor, okay? I opened the carb, gave it a quick and dirty. It was still doing it. Then I popped the valve covers, checked the valve lash. They were all off evenly. It says on the spec sheet 5 thou. They were all around 10 thou. So they were all off, but not. They were all off evenly, and they weren't off crazy. Like there wasn't one way the heck out of spec. They were all evenly off. So I don't think the valve lash was the issue, but even if it was, that's corrected now. The head gaskets are fine on this motor. That only leaves one thing left. Internal issue. Now, I remember seeing a Terrell Fixes All video where one of these was backfiring and popping, and it was a bad camshaft. This could have lobes that are worn down like sandpaper to nothing. Okay? And it's throwing off the timing slightly, just enough to cause that backfire and that pop, 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 pop. It could very easily be a bad cam because this thing had filthy oil. When I first looked at it, when I got it off the truck, you know, that's what it looked like. It was dirty, 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 but it was on the line. And then I ran it for a minute and looked at it again, and the thing was bone dry. So I added the amount of oil. It's still dirty ass oil, as you could see from whatever was left down in there. It must be dirty as hell. When oil gets that black and dirty, it turns into sandpaper. Literally, grit. You know what I mean? So all that does is eat down metal components like lobes on a camshaft. They could have easily gotten worn down, or one of them got worn down, a lobe, and one side isn't opening and closing like it should, and that's causing that pop, 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 pop. And then down at low throttle, same thing. It was running poor, and then it kind of stalled. It could be very easily caused by an issue like that. More than likely, that could be the issue. It could be something else. It could easily be that. So the only way I'm going to find out, I'm going to do a full-blown carb rebuild, carb clean on this carburetor. And then I'm going to run it. I'm going to see how it runs. And if it still runs like crap, it's an internal issue. It runs, but it runs poor. Okay? Because it's always pop, pop, pop. You even get a little tiny bit, you would catch a little bit of a flame coming out of there every once in a while. Like something's, it's timing, like it's letting exhaust out the carb, because that means the exhaust gases are left slightly open as the intake's opening. So you have your intake valve and your exhaust valve. The exhaust valve is supposed to be completely shut when the intake opens, and the intake valve is supposed to be completely shut when the exhaust opens. If the intake valve is still slightly open on one of the heads, when that exhaust valve opens, the intake is taking the exhaust with it up into the carburetor and causing pop, pop, pop. What times the motor? The camshaft. What on the motor keeps the timing? What on the camshaft keeps the timing in check? The lobes on the cam that open and close the valves, right? So if one of them or both of them are worn down, that's what you get. You get timing that's off by just a hair, and that's just enough to cause it be doing that running, but pop, 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 pop. So I think it's a cam. I think if I clean this carburetor and it's still doing it, I rebuild this carburetor 100% and it's still doing it, right? Especially if I run gas directly to this carburetor and bypass this and it's still doing it, that means that it's internal and it's most likely a cam. I wanted to cover that because that's what I was talking about yesterday. Someone else mentioned a timing gear. There could be something else internal, but I'm not seeing it. The heads are fine. There's no leak. There's no leaking oil. There's no air being lost or taken in. I know it. The heads are fine. So it's not the outside. It's not the valves. The valves are also working properly. So it's not one of those issues where the valve guide slid in the head, because I've had that happen before too. On this one, it was simply ran with poor, shitty oil or low oil, and it allowed things to wear. Specifically the camshaft, specifically the lobes on the camshaft got worn down. They're at a certain lobe, the height for this thing to open and close properly. Like I said, when they get worn down, that throws it all off. That's what I think it is.